Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of the Politics Today podcast with me, your host, Sean Malik, and my co-host, Shabir Faruqi.
Hey guys.
So, in our first episode, it's a special one. We're going to be dissecting the reasons as to why we believe Trump won the 2016 election, and how that will help us decide whether he's going to win in 2020 or not, some of the lessons that we've learned from them, and finally our predictions for what's going to happen in 2020. So wait for that towards the end of the show. We'd love for you guys to get involved in the discussion as well, so please do leave your comments below. Any disagreements you have with us, any agreements, any questions that you have, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. But for now, I'm going to move on to a first question, which I'm going to ask Shabir, and I'm going to say, Shabir, in a few words, obviously we're going to go deeper, and we're going to obviously go into more specifics as to why we think he won. But what do you think was one of the main reasons why Trump won the 2016 election?
I think the main reason Donald Trump won the elections in 2016 was because he pandered to an audience which felt politically isolated by the previous regime and also by the politicians that were campaigning at the time. Many people were tired of the status quo and they wanted to change and wanted a candidate who would represent them and fight for their needs. And in wanting such qualities of a candidate, Donald Trump catered perfectly for them. He was only candidate out of him and Hillary Clinton who offered real change. Hillary Clinton, as many people would have also seen, was pretty much exactly the same as what Barack Obama would have been. He would have been someone who stood up for the banks, listened to the corporations, gave in to the corporations, and not really catered to the needs of people who wanted change in America, people who wanted something different and whose lives weren't that great under the Barack Obama's tenure, and they wanted something different that could help perhaps light a spark into everyday life for them. And the only way they thought that could happen was by voting in Donald Trump. Why do you think Donald Trump was the only person who could light the spark? Well, firstly, the way he spoke in his rallies was also like almost as if he was telling everyone, "Yes, I care about you. I'm gonna make America great again." And by saying stuff like that and talking about how he's going to put hefty tariffs on China, bring jobs back to America, improve lives for the citizens of the United States, people whose quality of life perhaps wasn't that great under the last 8 years of Barack Obama. And now seeing this guy talk about how he's going to make America this amazing country, how he's going to improve their lives, how he's going to give them all their jobs back, how he's going to increase manufacturing in the United States. And by Trump saying all the right words and things which people in the South states particularly, and also in the swing states, wanted to hear, ultimately they were tired of the establishment and so went to the polls, voted for him, and that's probably how he got the one. That's how I think he won the election.
Yeah, Shabir, I think that was a pretty accurate answer. I would agree with most of the things that you said in that opening statement. I truly believe, and I always come back to this when it comes to politics. If you run a populist campaign anywhere in the world, whether it's the most conservative state in America, for example, Mississippi or Kentucky, or even one of the liberal states, which is like Washington D.C., Seattle, California, New York, all these liberal states. If you run a populist campaign anywhere, you're always going to be a popular politician because, by definition, if you're a populist, you push for the policies that affect the everyday working person. And the reality is most people in America are working class. And if you push policies that will affect them, you are going to be a popular politician. And that has been proven by the fact that Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in America because he is a truly populist politician that pushes for populist ideas like Medicare for all, like criminal justice reform, all these kind of things that are popular with the American people. So, for example, one popular issue is the legalization of marijuana. 62% of Americans support that. That is a popular idea. So, by definition, if you run a populist campaign, you're going to get votes. And I think that's what Trump did very effectively during his campaign. He ran as someone who was for the working person. So I'll give you a good example. His big thing was NAFTA and how NAFTA, he literally said, quote, was one of the worst trade deals ever made. he ran and he took a very principled position on NAFTA that really, I think, spoke to voters that were in the working class, especially in the Rust Belt. So, I mean, these people who've had their jobs outsourced for years and years under the Obama administration, they're obviously going to have so much anger and rage filled up with the administration that they wanted to just flip over the chessboard, and they wanted a new kind of voice coming out of Washington, D.C. And I think those are the Trump voters that I actually empathize with, because, I mean, it's very easy for people or for political commentators to just equalize all Trump voters as racist, ignorant, xenophobic people. But I don't think that's the full picture. I think a lot of them were motivated by the fact that they wanted work. They didn't want their jobs outsourced from the country. Trump ran by saying, I want to pull out of NAFTA. And to be fair, he has been fairly effective. Incrementally, he's made changes to NAFTA. I mean, he has a new USMCA agreement, which obviously does protect workers, but he definitely could have delivered more in terms of his rhetoric. So I'll give you an example. In the last year of the Obama administration, 87,000 jobs were outsourced from the US. Still a horrible number. And I'm not giving Obama credit. I'm no fan of Obama at all. I'm non-partisan. Just because he's a Democratic president doesn't mean I'll give him the slide on everything. However, in Trump's second year, this past year of Trump's reign in office, 93,000 jobs were outsourced. So he actually outsourced more jobs than Obama did in his final year. So, I mean, there's so much for someone who's going to keep your jobs in the country. But going back to the original point, I think this whole thing about, oh, I'm for the working person, it really helped Trump. And I think that's one of the main reasons he won. These people in the Rust Belt, right? Hillary Clinton didn't campaign in the Rust Belt because her campaign was so arrogant. They thought that, yeah, these are liberal states. We've got them under control. Like, that's ours to win. Let's not waste our time
And
campaigning
ultimately
there.
was her biggest demise that caused the downfall.
She lost because of 70,000 votes in the Rust Belt. That's the reason she lost. If she had gained those 70,000 votes, we would have had a clear Hillary Clinton president. Not to say that would be a lot better, but I think it would be better by a bit than Trump. So yeah, I mean, Trump went to the Rust Belt. He carried out very good rallies and did very good campaigning in the Rust Belt. And imagine you're a worker. Hillary Clinton's so arrogant that she doesn't even show up to your state. Trump's there, and he's saying, I'm going to keep your job in the country. That's obviously going to get you votes. At the end of the day, that is effective, whether you like Trump or not.
He's
That is
catering
very
to you.
effective.
He's making you feel like he wants to help you. His objective as president is to give you what you want. Whereas Hillary Clinton saying, "Yeah, your state will vote for me regardless."
He's a
Nothing
businessman. He's a businessman. He knows how to make people feel the way he wants them to feel. That's what he's been doing his entire life. He's been in the public image. He knows how to get across a narrative in the public, and he's done it very well in this campaign. We have to
albeit
give him
built on
credit for
lies.
that. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we can have another podcast about all his lies and all his shortcomings and failures. But I mean, yeah. So I think that was one of the main reasons people were just tired of the status quo. Like, and also I would just like to add one more point. I think the fact that Trump ran by saying I'm not funded by any corporations, any billionaires, whereas the other Republicans, such for example Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, were insanely corrupt individuals. I think the fact that Trump ran by saying I'm not. I remember he always used to say during the debates, I am not owned by anyone. I'm my own man. I fund my own campaign. Obviously, that wasn't actually true. There were studies that came out later that disproved that. But at the end of the day, how many Americans are going to fact check him? I doubt many. You're sitting there, you're taking in information in simple sound bites. I doubt the majority of Americans were going to fact check him on that. And at the end of the day,
because if they did check him, they would have realized this guy's nonsense.
But most voters are lazy, and that's not to shit on voters, but it's just true. Like I'm telling you, like if you were sitting there, I probably wouldn't fact check it. Like if I was just busy doing something else, I had that on in the background. I'm not going to fact check it. And now at the end of the day, that's in my mind. Like, oh, yeah, Trump isn't bought by anyone actually, and Ted Cruz is bought by the Koch brothers and all these billionaires. So obviously he's going to be doing the bidding of these billionaires and corporations, whereas Trump isn't. But you couldn't be further from the truth when it comes to Trump, because as we know now, he is a puppet to the establishment. He is a puppet to corporations. And yeah, I just think Trump was very effective in that sense as to getting. He was really coming across. He was really trying to come across as the guy that was really going to be there for the middle class that has been neglected by US policy for decades now. So yeah, I think that was I think we've pretty much gone into the meat of the argument in terms of why we think Trump won. I think there were minor other details as well. For example, actually no, when I say minor, that's an understatement. I think a major detail was he was running against Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton is a horrible candidate. So I'm just going to ask you now, Shabir, what are some of your thoughts about Hillary Clinton? And also, I guess we can kind of ask the same question in a different way, but link it more towards Hillary Clinton. Why did she lose?
Well, getting on to your first question, all my thoughts on Hillary Clinton. I think Hillary Clinton was a perfect candidate to the DNC. She was Secretary of State under Obama. Her husband was a former president of the United States. So everything was aligning in her favor, and people thought it was almost impossible for her to lose. And I do think that's where her biggest downfall was. Funnily enough, if you, I'm not sure if you saw a tweet a few days before the final results were before the election. She said, "Happy birthday to the future president."
Yeah.
A picture
Well, how arrogant can you get? Yeah.
yeah, and she's had that sort of arrogance where it's like, I'm going to win regardless, which is also why, as you were saying earlier, she didn't go into those states to campaign in the Rust Belt states. She thought she could win those states without having any problems. Um, and also, her campaign was built on celebrities endorsing her, cringe jokes, the Pokemon go to the polls.
Oh yeah,
I
I
was
remember that. That was wow.
creasing out. Oh, she
That,
did.
I mean, whoever told her to say that deserves a sacking. Honestly.
Yeah, and just getting with like Beyonce, all these people to endorse her. She probably thinks she's doing an amazing job. Everyone's going to vote for her because um, the celebrities are endorsing her, and she's also creating these concerts where people can go to and chanting her name and stuff like that. But she fails to realize that she's only catering to a small amount of the American population. There's millions of other people in the Rust Belt states which were undecided on who to vote for. Trump's impact on them was actually going quite understated, which is why Hillary Clinton was winning the polls. I do believe she was focusing on the polls too much and thinking that she had a substantial lead when in fact she didn't, as we later found out on election day.
Yeah.
And if she just showed a bit more respect for Donald Trump and his power to sway people and his ability to form rallies which encouraged more people to join his side, and she just paid a little bit more respect to that, I think she probably would have got a win. But with that arrogance that she had, thinking that it's already in the bag, I'm not surprised how it ended for her. And I also don't feel sorry for her because, for example, the Iraq War, she was on the wrong side of that.
Yeah.
Loads of liberal issues she's been on the wrong side of.
Oh yeah. Don't forget how she flipped on gay marriage. She only supported gay. She only was for gay marriage until in 2013. Before that, she was completely against gay marriage. Why is that?
Also,
Because public opinion
I know
swayed.
that
Before that, it was popular for people to. The popular opinion in society was for gay marriage to remain illegal. However, and then she also was saying, there's an interview from her in 2008 where she's saying, yeah, I believe marriage is between a man and a woman only. Then in 2013, she completely flipped her opinion. Oh, is it coincidental that that was at the same time that gay marriage
that's what I
became
don't
popular
respect.
opinion?
If you change your opinion just for the sake of pleasing people,
Oh,
I
that is
do
Hillary
not
Clinton.
respect that.
That is Hillary Clinton in a nutshell.
Yeah,
That
if
is
you
her.
have an opinion, stick to it. And she clearly just did it because she knew Obama was coming to the end. She wanted to run for prime president, and also just to please people. Essentially, just to please people, and maybe people be like, "Oh yeah, she's accepting of it." A similar situation was seen in the United Kingdom, with the Liberal Democrats leader, Jim Barron, who said on TV that yes, he's for gay marriage, but then as soon as he lost the election and had to resign from the Liberal Democratic leader's position, he said, "Oh no, let me flip back on what I said. I don't actually agree with it." So he literally just said it just to please people. And imagine if
Yeah.
he did get in charge, he just lied to millions of people. You would never go in charge, by the way, but I'm just saying, hypothetically,
Yeah.
he's just saying it just to please people and encourage people to be like, yeah, he's on our side, when in fact you're not. And that sort of lying really is a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think Hillary is completely unprincipled politician who does not actually stand for anything. She stands for everything that the corporations tell her, that Wall Street tells her to stand
Yeah,
for. She is probably the image of corrupt Democrats and corrupt politicians in general. I
yeah,
am not a fan of Hillary Clinton by all means. However, having said that, I would rather have her in the White House than Donald Trump. But that doesn't make her good by any stretch of the
yeah,
imagination. It just makes her the lesser of two evils. But in terms of, I think her scandals, what I find really interesting is that the way that the scandals were used by each of the candidates in 2016 was interesting because Donald Trump was not short of scandals during the 2016 campaign. There was a scandal almost every other day with him.
Yeah.
Honestly, saying that, like dozens of scandals, like many like scandals for Donald Trump. However, there was a Hillary Clinton email scandal, which was that she deleted, that actually she accessed, I believe she accessed top secret emails from a family private email server, without disclosing it, and that would have put the US at
And also to add to what you literally
yeah.
just said, deleted 30,000 emails.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, where's she hiding? That's what
I
I'm
mean,
hiding.
to the normal voter, that does not sound good, because, and I think the way Trump really spun it was
Oh
genius,
yeah,
because
he did it.
he really did milk it. Like, I remember seeing there were a few tweets from him where he really did milk the fact that she did this, and I think also let's not forget the fact that most people knew the fact that she did speeches for Wall Street for a few $100,000. She's insanely
She
an
made
insanely
$600
corrupt
million
politician.
from
Yeah,
a campaign.
let's not
$600 million.
even talk about the Clinton Foundation that has made billions of dollars from Saudi donations, various other things.
Saudi Arabia. That's a whole
Look,
another topic. We need a
yeah, look,
podcast.
let's be honest. She's an insanely corrupt politician, and to be honest, she really resembles the status quo. As you said before earlier in the podcast, that people were thinking this is just another Obama, and I heard a quote during the election that if Hillary Clinton wins, it's 4 more years of Obama.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very true, because they are very similar
Exactly.
on many policy on many policy positions, and not even just that. I think going back to the fact that she didn't
Does
run
offer change is what I think you're trying to say.
She didn't run her campaign as a populist. She was very stuck up, very arrogant, and yeah, I think one thing I want to add about this as well is I think she played identity politics way too much during this campaign. Like, I remember she used to say, "Oh, we need a female president. Yeah, it's time that we have a female president." No, how about we don't look at the fact that whatever gender our president is, why don't we just look at someone who's right for the job?
Yeah.
Stop trying to use the card that you're a female and you're going to be the first female president.
And
because
also,
at the end of the day, that's not going to help. That look. Half of all Americans earn $30,000 or less a year. Is the fact that we have a female president and the fact that we're being progressive in that sense, is that going to help them? No, it's not. They're still going to be earning $30,000 a year or less.
Exactly. Great.
Paycheck to paycheck, living in poverty. This is not acceptable for her to. And in fact, it was a very arrogant move, because she claims that, and it was a very unpopular move for her to do. I remember she was getting a lot of criticism for saying that from both sides, the left and the right. So, I mean, she played identity politics too much. Yeah, so I think those are just my thoughts. But moving on from Hillary Clinton now, I want to talk to you about 2020. So, firstly, I'm going to ask you, do you think Trump's going to win again in 2020? We know he's going to run again. He's pretty much confirmed that. Do you think he's going to win? Secondly, why do you think he's going to win? And thirdly, what Democrats do you expect to run against him?
Well, answering your first question, do I think he has a chance of winning? It does depend on who the Democrats put up as their next candidate. I think Bernie Sanders, by the time the next election campaign comes along, will he be too old to run? I'm not so sure. I think he's definitely, as you're saying, the most popular candidate in America. I think if he was the one who went against Trump in 2016, I think he'd win by a landslide, to be honest.
Yes. The polls even agree with you, Shabir. The polls agree with you that it would have been a landslide to Bernie Sanders. So,
you see, some of his policies, that was what you call reform in America, what he wanted.
Yep.
Increase the living wage, Medicare for all.
And it was. You know what was so amazing about his campaign is what it's the fact that he's been so consistent on these issues for years.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen debates in the 90s of Bernie Sanders debating for. I remember someone he was debating someone, and someone called people fags or something like that. So he used some kind of homophobic like slur, and Bernie Sanders really grilled him on that, saying that that's really bad that you're saying that. It's childish. It's regressive. It's very offensive, and he's been for gay marriage for years. Like he's very
not just
principled.
that. It's the wars. The wars.
The wars. He was against the Iraq War,
and he's been on the right side of it.
Yeah, he's always been on the right side of history. He got arrested for I think he was protesting the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
for the civil
No,
rights movement
it
in
draws very
America.
similar comparisons to Jeremy Corbyn. Who's of course a completely
Yes.
different candidate with different like different sort of. He's even further left, but
Yeah.
the similarities in they're both campaigning,
Yes, I agree.
things
I
to be
agree.
consistent,
Yeah,
and we
they're
see
both
how popular
populist.
he's become in the UK.
Yeah.
His campaign led to a hung parliament when everyone thought he'd get absolutely destroyed in the UK elections. So
Yeah.
just to show we're being a good populist candidate who
Yeah.
supports the needs of the working people and can empathize with them and what you can actually achieve in terms of support. What if you actually go do those sort of things? So
Yeah.
I think if Bernie Sanders runs, and if obviously if all being good in terms of his health, because that's also another thing to take into account.
Yeah, we can't
If
forget
that,
that, but don't forget Trump's also going to be like 75,
yeah,
I think, by the
yeah.
next election. Let me just double check that. But yeah, carry on in the meantime.
Yeah, so I think because Bernie Sanders would be I'd love to see him in charge of America because I think
So
he'd
would I.
change.
So would I.
Um, how old?
74.
74. So yeah, he'd be about 76ish. Yeah, yeah. I mean, um, yeah, but the bad thing is that we couldn't have Bernie Sanders at a young age, so he could run for 2 terms.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a shame. And I mean, I think had he won this last election, which I think he should have been the Democratic nominee. I think he would have run again, and I would think he would have got 2 terms. But
He would never have been as complacent as Hillary Clinton was in the election.
oh, for sure, he's not an arrogant guy, and also like he genuinely cares. He's genuinely
Yeah,
a principled politician.
yeah.
Hillary Clinton isn't. She just looks at what's popular. Okay, yeah, let me just say that. What do the corporations want me to say? Yeah. What does Wall Street want me to say? Yeah, I'll say that. That's fine.
Tick the
That's all
boxes.
she
Keep
is.
ticking the boxes.
Yeah. Bernie Sanders takes no corporate PAC money. He is entirely funded by small dollar donations. He's not bought by any corporation, and I really respect that. And I think you can't go wrong with a politician because then who is he accountable to? Wall Street? No. Corporations? No. The average working person? Yes. He's only accountable to the average working person in America, which can never go wrong with a politician, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, but in terms of so you think Bernie Sanders will run against him? I really do hope Bernie Sanders will run
And
because
um, I think that if Bernie Sanders doesn't run, or if a populist with similar ideas to Bernie Sanders does not run, I think it's very plausible that Donald Trump can win the 2020
oh,
election.
100%,
I
100%.
think his recent tax bill, which in the short term decreased taxes, but in the long term, which people don't know about, would increase taxes for the working class.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
They'd see the
his
lower taxes
tax
and they'll think
his
this guy's
tax
just a
bill
great class.
his tax bill increases taxes on all those earning $75,000 or less over 10 years.
Exactly, and people aren't seeing that yet. So when you
80% of the
2020, then
benefits of his tax bill go to
and
the
it's too
top one
late.
percent.
Yeah, it's a madness, and Democrats cannot let the next opportunity to pass them by because I think 2020, in theory, should be an easy election for them, given how Donald Trump's reputation amongst globally has not been great. He's viewed as a laughing stock to many of the world countries' leaders. So Democrats they can't afford to mess this up, and also there's another Democratic leader who I know you have keen opinions on. I say keen, perhaps that's the wrong word, but strong opinions on, I should say rather.
Yes, yes,
Kamala Harris, the
yeah,
US Senator for California.
yeah. I think I've heard a lot. I mean, CNN has tipped her to be the next Democratic nominee. Not just CNN. I've heard other people saying that Kamala Harris is going to be the next. I really hope not, because I'm telling you now, right? Like, mark this in stone. If she's the next Democratic nominee, we will have Trump 2020. I have no doubts in my mind.
What's wrong with her?
Because I'll explain to you. Let me give you a few facts about her. Let me give you a few facts about Kamala Harris. So 64.99%, 65% of her campaign funding has come from large donors. Now, let me define what large donors is to you. There's a certain, so the maximum threshold, the maximum amount of money that can be donated to a politician is $2,700. Okay, it's between $200 to $2,700. Bernie Sanders. Let me read this out to you. I'm getting this from by the way, I'm getting this from a Kyle Kalinske Secular Talk video. Bernie Sanders. So remember that stat: 65% of Kamala Harris's campaign funding has come from large donors.
Yeah,
17.7% of Bernie Sanders' campaign funding has come from large individual contributors. 17.7% compared to 65%.
and by 17%, he doesn't mean 17% banks. He means
Exactly.
17% of people who actually want a
Exactly,
populist change.
exactly, exactly, exactly. And that's why I don't want Kamala Harris to be running I think that she's not going to run a good campaign. I think Bernie Sanders will be much more effective. And Shabir, you didn't mention before, you said surely the Democrats can't mess this up. I think you'll be surprised because the Democrats are a shambles as a party. They are so out of touch with reality, okay? They do not know how to get their point across. They are fighting losing battles, okay? They keep debating losing ideas. So let me give you an example. Gun reform in America. I know we're from the UK, we're against guns, but we need to talk about reality. Most Americans, I believe it's over 50% of Americans, do not oppose the Second Amendment. They believe that they should have guns, but universal background check is a different story. Most Americans support a universal background check. Now, Democrats keep running on this anti-gun stance. I agree with them on principle. However, you need to be realistic. You're in the United States of America. I told you the popular opinion about guns is to not get rid of guns, is to keep the
Yeah.
Second Amendment. Why are they fighting losing battles? Also, why aren't they pushing Medicare for all? Medicare for all, it was just shown by a libertarian study that was funded by the Koch brothers, right? So talk about something that wouldn't try to prove Medicare for all works, but they found that Medicare for all actually saves the American people. I think it was around $700 million, but I need to check that. But it saves them $700 million in the long term. I mean, most Democrats, they're not even running on Medicare for all. Why are you not running on Medicare for all? It's now the popular position in America. I believe 70% of Americans want Medicare for all. No major Democrats other than Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and a few others are running on Medicare for all. Even though a study from a libertarian think tank funded by the Koch brothers, so no bias involved there, showed that Medicare for all would save the American people $2 trillion. Now, anyone that ever says to you in mainstream media, oh, how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? Oh, Medicare for all sounds great. How are we going to pay for it? I'll say to them, how can we afford not to put Medicare for all in? Because it's going to save them $2 trillion. So you need to start running on popular ideas. Otherwise, we're going to have a Trump 2020. And I believe that the only way to do that is to have true left-leaning populist politicians like Bernie Sanders, like Elizabeth Warren, almost, sort of. And I don't think Kamala Harris is like that. And I think Kamala Harris is bought by corporations. And so, yeah, that's why I think that we shouldn't have someone like Kamala Harris. I think we should keep propping up Bernie Sanders and those new wave politicians. So, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that Americans who say they can't afford universal healthcare just straight out don't know the facts pretty much.
Yeah.
Definitely they can. I think the only reason they won't do it is because how much money health insurance brings in for the corporations. I think pharmaceutical companies. I think America is one of the only countries that even allows pharmaceutical adverts on TV. So
Yeah.
people are heavily invested into the industry in terms of monetary value. They know by stuff like legalizing marijuana, it just ruins their industry.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's stuff like that's why they're sort of against that sort of stuff. And they strive to earn more money. Their whole ethos and their whole drive is money. And so by providing Medicare for all of a sudden they lose a business, they won't lose a business, but they think they will. I think that's where the fear comes from.
I just think most of the establishment and mainstream media is against Medicare for all because, as you said, they have a profit motive. The pharmaceutical companies, medical insurance companies, they all have a profit incentive in all of this. You think they're going to make as much money? No, they're not going to make as much money. But Medicare for all will cover 30 million more Americans. And you don't
Yeah.
have to pay a dime for your healthcare. Yes, wages will increase. Yeah, sorry, not wages. Yes, taxes will increase. That's another talking point that people bring up. Oh, yeah, okay, fine, but surely taxes will increase. Yeah, taxes will increase, but you don't have to pay such premiums, and that the average American will net save money. They will save money from Medicare for all. So
And have you
yeah,
heard? I think one of the biggest reasons of bankruptcy in America is because of medical bills, which is insane.
oh yeah, I mean I've heard horrible stories. I know this is anecdotal, but there is wider studies to back this up. But you just hear stories of like Americans selling their car to pay for their bill for a broken arm, and this should never be happening. Every developed nation in the world has free healthcare. Why can the
Yeah.
US not do it? I saw a video by Secular Talk, Kyle Kalinske. It's an old video, but I was watching it quite recently, and he was saying that most I think he was saying most British people living in the US travel back to the UK for healthcare.
And
Because
considering how bad the Americans would make you think the NHS is, why
oh
would
yeah,
they bother?
I mean, let's be honest. The NHS has problems, but
Yeah,
when you compare it to the American healthcare system,
yeah,
it's a lot better.
yeah,
Um, I mean, they'll talk about a common point that they'll bring up against the NHS is, oh, you have long waiting times. Fine, we have long waiting times in departments like A&E, but at the end of the day, do you have to pay a single dime for your healthcare? No.
yeah.
Is your healthcare going to make you bankrupt? No.
No,
Would you not? Would you much rather I would much rather have that than having to worry about long waiting, because obviously long waiting times is a
it's not
problem.
even that. If you're about to die,
Exactly.
or you're suffering from something which could kill you, in the
Exactly.
UK and Canada, in all these progressive countries, they'll sort you out. They'll help you.
Exactly. And look, I just hope that the narrative changes in the Democratic Party, although I don't think it will, unless we have someone like Bernie Sanders being propped up as the next nominee. I think you're going to have these same bland, stale Democrats, corporate Democrats, who are bought by corporations to do the bidding of these corporations and billionaires, and they're not going to prop up things like legalization of marijuana, Medicare for all, ending wars, criminal justice reform, all these kind of things. They're not going to prop it up because that's not what the corporations want. It's not what the people in power want. So, yeah, that's just. I think we've had quite a good discussion
Yeah,
in
it's
this
been
show.
fun.
It's been
First
fun.
podcast.
We've jumped around all over the place, but forgive us if we were jumping off topic a few times. We're both very passionate about the issues, as you'll see, because we're going to be coming up with a lot more content in the next few weeks for you guys.
Yeah,
Let us know in the
definitely.
comments below what are your thoughts. Were there anything that we were wrong about? Anything that you disagree with us about? And yeah, so we're looking forward to producing another one of these podcasts. Probably within the next week, we'll have another topic lined up for you guys. And yeah, in the meantime, take care. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this installment of Politics Today. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.